Hello viewers, welcome to the environmental issues session. Today we are going to discuss about some of the important factors of the environmental issues. I am Professor B. Rupini from School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies would like to bring forth some of the environmental issues what we have discussed earlier, tropospheric ozone, stratospheric ozone, and today we are going to discuss about the acid rain. So, we have seen about the acid rain and we have heard about the acid rain, but we never ever experienced, but we have seen some of the important factors and also photographs which appears in the newspapers. So, I would like to give a brief introduction about how the acid rain forms and what is the significance of acid rain and what are the forms of the acid rain. So, the main important factor for this acid rain is the air pollution. That means the effect of air pollution that extend beyond human health, influencing climate patterns and also ecosystems. So, the balance between the incoming solar radiation and also outgoing heat that disrupted by the pollutants that contributing to global warming and climate change. So, addressing air pollution is most important and requires coordinated efforts at the local and also national and international level all together with an including the stricter regulations. And cleaner technologies also most important role it will play. And also the public awareness, that is a most important thing. That means the common sense of people should be raised because we need to understand the air pollution and also the consequences of the air pollution. As urbanization continues to rise and especially in countries like India, that tackling air pollution becomes increasingly critical for the sustainable development and also public health. There are various layers that make up the Earth's atmosphere. The troposphere, the lowest I can say that, the lowest layer that reaches an altitude of roughly 6 miles from the Earth's surface. And almost every human activity and also takes place that in the troposphere. The world's tallest mountain, that is a Mount Everest, is just roughly 5.6 miles, that is a 9 kilometers approximately high. So, that means today you have to understand that how these acid rain or the air pollution adversely affect the human beings. And today we are going to discuss about acid rain in detail, which is a part of this course of the environmental issues. Of course, it is indeed a significant environmental issue that resulting from the release of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides into the atmosphere, primarily from the industrial activities and vehicular emissions. This pollution leads to the formation of sulfuric and nitric acids when these gases react with the water vapor. The effects of the acid deposition, both wet and dry, that means here I have used these two terms, that means acid rain must be two types of acid rains are there that can be detrimental to the ecosystem definitely. So, wet deposition that includes the acid rain, snow, it may be a fog that can definitely harm the soil as well as the water bodies and human beings and also the entire ecosystem. So, it lowers the pH of soil and water deposition on one hand we can say that, and also it will adversely affect the aquatic life and the forest health. And dry deposition is the another form of the acid rain that damage vegetation and also it corrodes the buildings and the structures, and also the acidity of the precipitation when washed away by rain, and also it have a very detrimental effect wherever it will present. The overall the monitoring of the precipitation and also the reducing emissions of the pollutants and also that causes the acid rain, that is very crucial for protecting both natural ecosystems and also human made structures. So, now we will see that what are the causes of the acid rain. what we are talking about. So, the majority of the sulfur dioxide as well as the nitrogen oxides in the atmosphere that contribute to acid rain primarily originate from the human activities, especially the burning of the fossil fuels, and the main sources we can see that electricity generation, the first and foremost feature, reason behind it. So, the power plants that burn coal, oil or the natural gas very significant contributors that accounts for about 2/3 of the sulfur dioxide production and also a quarter of the nitrogen oxide emissions. And once it releases into the atmosphere, like the transportation system, that is the vehicles, cars, trucks and also the buses as well as heavy equipment that releases nitrogen oxides through fuel consumption and also combustion. And industrial process also contribute for these pollutants. First one is the manufacturing plants and oil refineries and other industries that contribute to emissions through various process and the use of the fossil fuels, and also how long they will travel. The wind patterns we have seen that can carry these pollutants over vast distances, and that means the areas far from the original sources that can still experience acid rain. That means you have to understand, even though minute concentration of these pollutants can cause a detrimental effect. So, this cross border nature or transboundary nature of air pollutants that makes it a widespread environmental issue impacting ecosystems and human health far beyond the immediate vicinity of the pollutant sources. Addressing these emissions requires a coordinated efforts at local, national and international levels. Now, we will see what are the components in the acid rain. So far we are talking about the sulfur oxides as well as nitrogen oxides. So, the major components of acid rains are sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxides. These dissolves in rainwater. So, these components are deposited as dry and wet depositions. When these pollutants are dissolved in water during rain, it forms the various acids. So, that is normal phenomenon of acid rain. And how these various forms of acid rain normally occur. So, one is the wet deposition, another one is the dry deposition. In the wet deposition, commonly known as the acid rain, that occurs when sulfuric and nitric acids in the atmosphere fall to the ground, which mixed with precipitation like rain, it may be snow or it may be fog or it may be hail, in any of the forms. So, this process can significantly impact ecosystems as the acids can lower the soil and water pH and also that harming plants and aquatic life. If we will see the dry deposition, on the other hand, involves acidic particles and gases that settling on surfaces without moisture. So, these can accumulate on water bodies, vegetation and buildings also. So, over time what will happen, these acids can react with other atmospheric components, forming larger particles that can pose health risks. When it eventually rains, the accumulated acids are washed off these surfaces, potentially leading to the harmful runoffs that affects the soil, plant, wildlife including insects and fish wherever it will move, wherever it will travel. So, the balance between wet and dry deposition can vary significantly depending on the region's rainfall. In arid regions especially, dry deposition often plays a larger role in introducing acidity to the environment compared to regions with abundant precipitation. Now, we will see the pathways of acid rain, different pathways are there. If you look into the slide, the first one is the emissions. So, that is there are the number of sources are also there. For example, sulfur dioxide. This gas is primarily released from the burning of the fossil fuels, that is a coal or oil in power plants and industrial facilities and from vehicles. And natural sources are also there like volcanic eruptions as well as the wildfires. And another important oxide is the nitrogen oxides. These are produced from the high temperature combustion processes, especially in vehicle and also power plants, as well as from the agricultural activities. So, what would be the impact of this one? And these have a negative impact, that is the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide compounds. They will contribute significantly to air pollution, and also it can lead to health problems in humans as well as environmental issues. And in the second point, how it will transform once it enters into the atmosphere. So, in the atmosphere, the sulfur dioxide as well as the nitrogen oxides undergo a series of complex chemical reactions that definitely often involving water vapor, oxygen and also sunlight. That means these three things should be there to react. And sulfuric acid, whenever the sulfur dioxide can be oxidized to form sulfuric acid through reactions with oxygen as well as the moisture. And nitric acid, that is just like a sulfuric acid, the nitrogen oxides also can react to form nitric acids. So, these reactions can be facilitated by the presence of other compounds like ammonia and also particulate matter that can enhance the formation of these acids. Now, we will see that how this deposition, transformation or the transport mechanisms will take place. So, the acid particles and gases that can be carried by wind currents over considerable distances from their original sources and for the longer duration, and once the wet deposition takes place, when all these acids mix with water droplets which are present in the clouds, and they can fall as acid rain, snow or fog. If you will see the dry deposition mechanism, these acidic particles that can also settle out of the atmosphere as dry particles that impacting the surfaces directly without precipitation. So, that means there is a balance between wet as well as the dry deposition, but the effect is same. So, the distance travelled that can vary widely. Some pollutants can travel hundreds of kilometers before being deposited. That means they will stay in the longer duration in the air itself. And then how do we measure the acid rain? How do we know that this is an acid rain? So, there is a measure that is a pH scale we can normally consider as. So, it is a pH scale ranges from 1 to 14. If for example 7 is considered as a neutral on the pH scale, so which is normally used to quantify acidity as well as the alkalinity. Any substance which is considered more acidic, if its pH is less than 7 what we thought, 7 is a neutral, and more alkaline if its pH is greater than 7, because carbon dioxide dissolves into it to generate a weak carbonic acid. So, normal rain has a pH of roughly 5.6, that making it somewhat acidic. So, the pH of acid rain typically ranges from 4.2 to 4.4. So, now we will see what are the effects of acid rain on ecosystem. So, there is a very drastic detrimental impacts on the ecosystem, particularly aquatic environments and also terrestrial vegetation. As rainwater becomes acidic, it leaches aluminum and also other harmful substances from the soil into streams, lakes as well as marshes. So, this increase in acidity can detrimental to aquatic life, especially fish and also other wildlife. Sensitive species struggle to survive as pH levels decline. For instance, most fish eggs fail to hatch at pH 5, most important thing, and adult fish may die at even lower levels. So, that means their stability is more important. In addition to that, organisms that depend on these fish for food may also be adversely affected, disrupting the entire food web. If we will see the terrestrial ecosystem, acid rain can harm plants and trees by stripping essential nutrients from the soil. For example, trees especially in high elevation areas suffer from nutrient depletion due to acidic fog, leading to weakened the foliage that is less capable of photosynthesis. So, these trees become more vulnerable to disease and also environmental stressors like freezing temperatures, which can further diminish the forest health. The capacity of soil, if we will see that, to buffer acid rain is very crucial role it plays. In regions where soil is thin or mineral poor, we can say that, the ability to neutralize acid is limited. What will happen? Resulting in accumulated acidity that can devastate local ecosystem. Additionally, episodic acidification, temporary spikes in acidity due to the melting snow or heavy rainfall, that can create acute stress for various organisms. If we will see the nitrogen pollution in acid rain as a byproduct of acid rain, it also poses a significant threat, particularly to a coastal ecosystem, and also the nitrogen that can lead to harmful algal blooms and further degrading water quality and impacting fish. And overall, the effects of acid rain definitely illustrate the intricate connections within ecosystems, highlighting the urgent need for pollution reduction and also to protect the biodiversity and ecosystem health. And if we will see the effect of acid rain on materials, the acidic deposition is not always moist, dry deposition also we have seen. So, where the dust particles that can occasionally turn acidic, and also the nitric and sulfuric acid that causes acid rain, and dry acidic particles to fall to the ground that can harm the surfaces of the sculptures and buildings and also other man-made objects. The acidic particles accelerate the deterioration of paints and also stone and corrode materials, and metals also will be corroded by these acid particles. Additionally, they soiled the exteriors of monuments and other buildings also. So, what would be the repercussions of this one? This is the damage that can be very expensive, including the lost details on stone if you will see the slide, and also the metal statues, monuments, tombstones, and also damaged materials that require replacement or repair and higher maintenance expenses. So, in the atmosphere, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide gases can be transformed into sulfate and nitrate particles. So, there is a regular interaction and regular change, interconversions within these two gases. And some of the NOx particles can also react with other pollutants to form ozone. So, these particles and ozone make the air hazy and also difficult to see through. So, this affects our environment and also enjoyment of the people in the national parks that we visit normally with our own children for the scenic view, like there are so many great Smoky Mountains which are in abroad. And what will happen to the human health? So, walking in acid rain, will it give us pleasure? No. Or even swimming in the lakes affected by the acid rain? It is a very dangerous to the human health also than walking in normal rain or swimming in non-acidic lakes. However, when the pollutants that cause acid rain, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides as well as sulfate as well as the nitrate particles are in the air, they can be harmful to the humans. And once they react in the atmosphere to form the sulfate and nitrate particles that people can inhale into their lungs. Many scientific studies have been shown and then proven a relationship between these particles and effects on heart function, that means the cardiovascular diseases and heart attacks, resulting in death for people with increased heart disease risk, and effects on lung function such as breathing difficulty, and for the people those who are suffering with asthma. And what are the mitigation measures? There are mitigation measures are also there. Cutting down on pollution. So, there are many research studies have been shown and discovered many strategies to lower the quantity of sulfur dioxide emitted by the power stations that burn coal. Using coal with lower sulfur content is also one of the biggest alternative, we can say that, and productive alternative too. To get rid of the part of the sulfur, we can also wash the coal. Though there are so many scrubbers are also available, and a piece of equipment that the power plant might install to remove sulfur dioxide from gases that exit the smokestack. Some power stations are altering the way they burn coal, since burning coal and other fossil fuels produces nitrogen oxides. And additional energy sources are also there. For example, creating electricity without the use of fossil fuels is a wonderful approach to lessen acid rain. Renewable energy sources like solar and wind power provided a very good alternative for the energy generation. There are renewable energy resources generate significantly less pollution, so they also aid in the reduction of acid rain. Electricity and machines that can be powered by these energy sources, cars that and also which are cleaner. So, that is also most important and main sources of the pollutants that lead to acid rain in automobiles and trucks. So, the combined amount of pollution produced by all the cars, all the vehicles on the road is substantially more than that of a single vehicle. So, what will happen? So, automakers must limit the quantity of nitrogen oxides and also the other pollutants that new automobiles emit. So, the term catalytic converter is a most important advantage over here. So, what it will do? It is one kind of technology which is found in the automobiles. This piece of equipment has been used for over 20 years to reduce the amount of nitrogen oxides which is released by the car. Some new cars can also use clear fuels like a natural gas. So, before concluding, I would like to emphasize on three notable global case studies which highlighting the impacts of acid rain. The first one across the globe I would like to tell the Black Forest in Germany. So, the Black Forest region in Germany has been affected by acid rain since 1970s. So, the area is known for its dense forest which were severely impacted by industrial emissions from nearby regions, particularly from coal burning power plants. So, the impact is detrimental. So, as acid rain fell, the soil became more acidic, leading to nutrient leaching which severely affected tree health. So, the decline of spruce trees was particularly notable, with widespread die-off attributed to both acid deposition and also associated factors like bark beetle infestations. So, Germany implemented strict emission regulations and invested to cleaner technologies, and monitoring and research have ever since improved a lot for the aiding in the development of more sustainable practices. And the second case study I would like to put forward is Eastern Canada and also Northeastern United States. So, they have experienced significant acid rain issues also, particularly in the late 20th century. Industrial activities in the Midwest produced substantial sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions which were carried by the prevailing winds into these regions. Of course, it caused widespread damage to freshwater lakes and also harming aquatic ecosystems and leading to the decline of fish population, especially species like which are sensitive to the pH changes like trout. So, the soil in this region became depleted of calcium and also further affecting the forest ecosystem. And in 1990s itself, the United States and Canada implemented the acid rain program, which included a cap and trade systems to reduce the emissions from the power plants. So, these efforts have led to a significant decrease in acid rain levels and also the improvements in the ecosystem health over the past few decades. That is a very, very positive sign. And the last case study I would like to give is in China, because rapid industrialization in China, it has led to severe air pollution including high levels of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. Urban areas like Beijing and Shanghai have experienced acid rain as a byproduct of coal combustion and industrial emissions. And also it has affected the agricultural productivity and damaged buildings and led to health issues for residents also. Soil degradation and water quality deterioration in rivers and lakes, they have also been observed and threatening to biodiversity and food security. So, in response to these challenges, Chinese government has enacted policies which aimed at reducing air pollution, including transitioning to cleaner energy sources and increasing energy efficiency and enforcing stricter emission standards. So, efforts are ongoing to monitor acid rain and mitigate its impacts on the environment and public health. So, with these I would like to conclude, and in conclusion I would like to give understanding these pathways highlights the importance of reducing emissions and implementing policies to mitigate air pollution and its impact on the environment. Pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides are emitted to the atmosphere when we burn fossil fuels like oil and coal from boilers and factories and power plants and automobile emissions. These pollutants are converted to sulfuric and nitric acids and come back to the ground as an acid deposition. So, acid deposition we have seen that is taking place in two processes. One process is wet deposition. Sulfuric and nitric acids are incorporated into clouds and run into the ground in the form of rain, snow, maybe it is in the form of mist also. So, when a large amount of acid are dissolved in, rain shows stronger acidity. So, this phenomena is known as the acid rain. And also we have seen the other process like dry deposition that occurs on fine and cloudy days. Airborne acids come directly through winds and deposit themselves on trees and also the buildings and even human respiratory systems. So, finally, the studies illustrate the global nature of acid rain and its diverse impact on the ecosystem, human health and economic activities. They also highlight the importance of international cooperation and policy interventions to address the environmental challenge of this acid rain. With these, I would like to conclude, and we will come up and interact with the other session. Thank you.